Good morning and welcome to Citizen McCain. This is a little bit of an early show. I don't know if you can hear that train honking outside. I apologize. There's a little bit of an early show. Um, this I have had the luxury and the dread of having um, more time to process the horrific, brutal slaughter, assassination of our friend Charlie Kirk. I am almost grateful that I didn't have my show the next day or the next morning because, quite frankly, I, like so many other people, have been in deep grief and confusion and trying to sort through what this means, not only for conservatives, but for the United States of America at large. We are at a time of extreme violence that has switched to political violence, which is not something we've seen since the 1960s. When I am in times of crisis, of fear, of questioning my reality, I always lean on my friends and loved ones. And one of my dearest friends just happens to be one of the most powerful women in America. Her name is Tulsi Gabbard, and she's currently the director of the National Intelligence Agency. She's also a dear friend of Charlie Kirk. I don't believe she's quite on yet, right? She just needs 1 minute. She'll be right here. But I think we should show some photos really quickly of actually, yeah, we have some photos of Tulsi and Charlie. Tulsi was often on the road with him and went to college campuses with him. I specifically remember one time when she went to U of A and there was a massive turnout for both of them. So you can see her sitting in outdoor tents, much like he did, to have a conversation with people that disagreed with them on college campuses. There's them at Turning Point. Is she here? Um, and had been on the road with him and known him personally many times. Tulsi, thank you for taking time to come on my little show this morning. I love you. And I was just saying, I, like so many tens, if not hundreds of millions of Americans, is having a really hard time processing all of this. I'm having a not only a crisis of faith, but I feel like a little bit of a crisis of patriotism. And first and foremost, I just want to ask you how you're feeling. Not only are you a very important figure in our administration in our country, but this has personally impacted you. Charlie was a close friend of yours, and
Yeah.
he was also, very integral in so many things in your life and your career. How are you feeling personally?
Yeah, Megan, it's good to see you. I just want to make sure. Can you hear me okay?
Can hear you great.
It's been obviously a very difficult time, to say the least. Um, Flood of emotion and different feelings since Charlie was killed on September 10th. But ultimately, what I have found to be so incredible and so awesome and really the most powerful testament to Charlie as a person, Charlie's heart, the mission that he dedicated his life to, his love for Jesus Christ is what has come from the ashes here in the wake of his assassination. To see people from all different backgrounds, all across the country, small town squares. I've gotten so many different pictures from people that I know personally who've been sending me the vigils that have been held in their own communities, their own college campuses, and of course in major sporting arenas. Yesterday, different football games, different concert arenas, both here in the United States and in other parts of the world. People in South Korea, people in the UK, people across Europe, people who may not have ever met Charlie Kirk, but who were deeply impacted and who recognize that Charlie Kirk would not have wanted anyone to go out in the street and riot and protest and conduct acts of violence. The response that we are seeing from people is a true reflection of how Charlie lived his life and how he communicated with people, how he treated people, and truly his mission, which was all really centered around love. Love for God and love for each other, love for our country, our Constitution, love for his family. And that's a really beautiful thing. And it's what inspires hope, is that there are countless numbers of people around the world who are now inspired in ways perhaps they never have been before, to reflect on their own lives, to recognize that none of us knows how much time that we have in this world and in this body. And so it is an important opportunity to take a step back and to really reflect and meditate and pray on how can I use my life in service to God to make a positive impact on others, to serve that higher purpose, to put service above self, because none of us knows when our time will come.
You know, Tulsi, I think obviously that's so important. And last night I had the honor of going with you to the Kennedy Center event, honoring the vigil, honoring Charlie Kirk. And one of the things you said that is impacting so many people, you had a friend text you saying that Charlie was all about peace and meeting in the middle and trying to have discussions. And you have a friend that said it didn't work, and you said it did. I was not that friend that texted you that, but I share this fellow friend's sentiments. I'm not in a mood to meet with the other side right now. I don't feel like I have it in me right now to find what unites us rather than divides us, because I do feel like there is legitimacy to the claim that the violence is being mostly aimed at our side. What do you say to people who are in this headspace? I'm sure it won't last forever, but people that just feel completely isolated and like this country's just completely splitting in half.
You know, it is important in the midst of all of these what are really natural feelings that you and that all of us were going through and processing what just happened, not only to our friend, but what has been exposed, the evil, the darkness that exists in our country and in the world. And I just encourage people to look at Charlie's example, look at the example set by people like Martin Luther King, those who have faced incredible adversity in their lifetimes and consistently, not a one-off, but consistently chose the path of love and respect and dialogue. And, you know, we've seen videos of Charlie or been in the presence of Charlie when he's had fierce debates, screaming at people, and the other side screaming back. So this is, as I said last night at the Kennedy Center, this is not, should not be misunderstood that love means weakness or love means rolling over if someone is coming at you and attacking you or your ideas. Love is strength. Love is the most powerful thing. And it takes many different shapes. It is that strength and that courage that we must draw upon right now during a time where many may be confused about, what do I do now? How do I respond? How do I move forward? How do I engage with people? And when that opportunity presents itself, whether you seek it out or it comes to you, it is important that we look to the example that Charlie set and others have set in choosing that path of love and confronting that hate and darkness and evil with love, and not allowing any ourselves to succumb to responding to hate with hate, because that's where we find ourselves as a country and as a people in a very rapid spiral downward.
Can you tell me a little bit about what Charlie was like personally? I know you guys are very close friends. I saw our mutual friend Blake put a picture up of all of you guys at dinner. You know, I think somewhat recently you were on the road with him a lot. I can remember you doing Turning Point events with him, and one at the University of Arizona that was just massive and had a huge, enormous, thousands and thousands of people turn out. What was he like behind the scenes, and what was he like personally with you?
He was incredibly kind. You know, I really just got to know him over the last few years. There are others who've known him a lot longer than I have, but he welcomed me in like I was a member of his family, like we were longtime friends. And, you know, in the midst of, you know, one event to the next event and travel from here to there, or trying to grab a bite to eat in between things, you know, Charlie was exactly who he is. He never pretended to be somebody that he wasn't. He's authentic, sincere, and very, very focused and mission driven in everything that he did. He looked beyond the boundaries that many others, especially in the political world, felt were the limits. And this was really where the impact that we are seeing Charlie had on people came from. Is he didn't allow himself to exist within these unfortunate silos that exist within our country and certainly within politics. It's why he went places where no one else had gone before him, to have the conversations other people weren't having, to record them, to put them online, to put them on TikTok and Instagram, so that others far outside of the physical reach would actually be able to see them, be impacted, and be inspired by him. I got to know Charlie's wife, and to see them together, it was just a beautiful, beautiful thing to see this couple who were best friends and completely aligned in their mission, and supporting each other in their service. I'm really grateful to have been a very small part of Charlie's work, and have been able to join him at some of these different things. And he helped me going through this confirmation process to the position that I am in today, that President Trump nominated me when he nominated me Director of National Intelligence. Charlie was one of the first people that I spoke to, both before and after that. And Charlie did so much behind the scenes that he never spoke about publicly and that people never saw publicly, to be able to help get the right people in the right positions to be able to help President Trump carry out his agenda, knowing that he needed that. The president needed to have the best people around him. Some of the lessons learned from the first administration, in order to carry out the promises that he made to the American people. I can't even tell you how many times we called Charlie and said, "Hey, we could use your help with this or that," and his answer was like, "Yep, on it, always." And like I said before, he did a lot even behind the scenes that he would never even tell me about, and I'd find out about it from somebody else. And he never, ever, ever wanted credit, ever.
Yeah, I can remember how I met him was obviously through you. And during your confirmation hearings, he had me on his show, just to talk about how all of us could be effective in making sure that you got confirmed. And he was so warm and welcoming. And he seemed to really understand that you could have been a Democrat 5 seconds ago, but if you want to join the movement, you're welcome, which for
Yeah.
me, even at the time, was such a refreshing vibe to hear, because there's just so many people that have a different perspective. Why was he so including of everyone? Maybe that's a quite hard question to answer, but he really, like RFK last night at the vigil, said the reason why he ended up endorsing Trump was because of Charlie, which is really quite incredible.
I'll never presume to speak for him, but from my vantage point, what I saw was that Charlie saw in real time in his conversations with people on these college campuses the ability to cause people to think, to rethink their positions, to have real dialogue and conversation where if they weren't won over in the debate, which many were, then they probably walked away saying, gosh, maybe I really need to do more research. I need to learn more. I need to really think about the positions that I thought were right or the policies that I thought were right. And I think Charlie saw what was possible in that phenomena that occurred across these campuses that he visited, in people thinking, actually thinking, and not just being blind followers on any side. And that's a wonderful and beautiful and important thing. And so I think when we went into President Trump's campaign, Charlie recognized both with me and our Bobby Kennedy Jr. as people who had been former Democrats, the opportunity to really bring together more Americans who care deeply about our country, who care about each other as fellow Americans, not Democrats, Republicans, or independents, but really care about each other and care about common sense and do right and wrong, and saw an opportunity to really help President Trump build this really unique and unprecedented historic coalition that would enable the president and us to be able to carry out those policies, putting the American people first.
Yeah, no, and he really seemed to understand how vital people like you were to getting Trump over the finish line to be president and bringing in a whole new swath of voters. You know the story already, but my dear friend Sarah Scarborough's son, Colton, was a massive fan of Charlie Kirk, massive. And you and Charlie both facilitated sending him a giant box of hats and Turning Point swag and a beautiful sign letter from Charlie that I know now he is framing and treasuring.
Well,
And a hat that
let me
was said,
just jump
Sure.
in there for a second, because I'll just tell you how it happened. You sent me a note about your friend Sarah's son,
Mhm.
and I sent the note to Charlie, and immediately within minutes, Charlie replied and said, like, that's amazing. I could probably look it up. I still have it in my phone. He's like, that's amazing. This is so awesome. Please get me his address because I want to send him something. And then within a
Yep.
few days, you sent me the video of Colton opening up this amazing care package that Charlie had sent him.
Yeah. And it was within a few days. And Colton was one of how it even came up in conversation with my friend is Colton is a really good kid. He is smart. He plays football. He is academically inclined. He goes to church all the time. And I said, how do you raise a child like this? Because this is the example. And Sarah said, it's parenting, but it's Charlie Kirk has been an incredible influence on him. And he listens to his show every day. And I have her permission to share that this has obviously hit Colton very, very hard. As you can only imagine, someone who is a super fan, and Colton's in high school. I know he's not the only young man in the country that is having an extremely difficult time. What do you say to not only parents, but anybody in the country that is just grieving the death of a figure who has inspired them in so many different ways? And I know generations before have done it with, like you said, Martin Luther King and people like that, but this is unique and new to our generation.
Yeah. Just keep looking to Charlie's example and think about what would Charlie want you to do right now. Even as in a state of grief, your instinct may be just to collapse, to kind of curl up in a corner and not face the harsh reality of what occurred, and have to face the questions you would likely be asking yourself about what do I do? What do I do? Charlie, through his example, through his life's mission and work, showed exactly what he would want Colton and so many others to do, to carry on, to speak the truth. Don't allow anyone to terrorize or intimidate or bully you into silence. Don't allow this assassin to terrorize you into silence. To make Charlie proud and happy would be to continue Charlie's work in whatever way, shape, or form that takes for any one individual to continue to be a defender of freedom, a defender of the Constitution, and to continue to have the kinds of conversations that Charlie had, where even if they start in a heated and fierce debate, walk away knowing that you treated each other with respect as children of God. This is what I spoke about last night at the Kennedy Center, was for the real meaning of aloha. In my home
Mhm.
state, why we greet each other with aloha. People say, oh, does it mean hello or goodbye? Neither. It doesn't mean either one of those things. We greet each other with aloha so that we can start a conversation with the most fundamental truth in saying, I see you as a fellow child of God, and as such, treat you with respect. And that allows for a deeper, meaningful dialogue and exchange than if we were to just remain on the superficial level of labels and partisanship and, are you this or are you that? Are you for me? Are you against me? Have the kind of dialogue inspired by that aloha that Charlie had countless times with people all over the world.
I hear that and receive that, and I love whenever you say aloha in any context because you embody the spirit of it so much. I think one of the things that I'm fearful of right now is I've been had a lot of time since last Wednesday to ruminate and think about what's going on in our country. And one of the concerns I have is I do think what happened to Charlie is a buildup of the extreme rhetoric that's been happening over the past 5 years. I kept thinking about in 2020 when so many people on the left were saying words are violence. And
Yeah.
when you say something because words are violence, then violence is okay. And mostly peaceful protesting with buildings on fire. And there's a bunch of data that has recently come out saying that a lot of Democrats overwhelmingly believe that violence can be an answer for free speech, and they're comfortable with that. I do not know what to do with that. That is a new paradigm for this country. It's a new paradigm for me to even think about. How do we push through this? How do I have conversations with someone on the far left who thinks that violence towards anyone is somewhat acceptable?
Those conversations, their approach must be exposed for the vile, evil darkness that it is, which is rooted in the weakness of their positions. The reason why this is where they land, that they think that this is the approach that's necessary to censor those they disagree with or to silence them by some means, whether it's an act of violence or intimidation or bullying. It is obviously a very, very dangerous situation, and their approach must be defeated by the superior argument that's really rooted in the foundational principles of our country, of the vision that our founders had for us. And obviously, those who choose to resort to violence must be held accountable with the full force of the law. That accountability is essential. So, the answer is quite clear. Those who are being exposed for their weakness of their argument, those who are being exposed for the vile, evil darkness that they are embodying, the path that they have chosen, we have the responsibility and the opportunity to take action to expose them for what they are. We cannot allow ourselves to be reduced to that level when our arguments, our ideas, our policies are superior because they are rooted in the values and principles enshrined in our founding documents, and they are rooted in our God-given rights and freedoms that are enshrined in those documents.
Are you surprised by how many people are grieving as hard as they are who didn't know Charlie? I even have friends, like I have a friend who's a Democrat who is just despondent over this because I think it is about Charlie, obviously, but it's also about a sickness in our
Yeah.
country and a sickness in our culture. And I think demonic forces that have been unleashed recently for
Yeah.
whole variety of reasons that we all have to fight and be extremely vigilant about. But are you surprised? I've never experienced anything like this in my life. Every time I think
Yeah.
I've experienced it all, I have not experienced anything like my reaction to seeing the horrific execution and then this response on Thursday after it happened. I had to cancel my meetings in the morning and I stayed in bed for a few hours and just I couldn't I felt like I needed to just be quiet and pray and meditate and just take solace when I could. Are you surprised how much this is impacting our country?
I think again, it really speaks to the impact that Charlie had, in the midst of that darkness, I have found that light that really shines through from Charlie's heart. I've heard from people who I know, as well as people I don't know and have never met, who are sending me DMs on social media saying things like, I prayed for the first time in over 10 years. People who are talking to God and seeking shelter in God and asking for help to try to make sense of what just happened and to, provide the strength to be able to find the right way forward. And this really is such a beautiful thing that again can only be inspired by somebody who was motivated with this uh, powerful, powerful love. He dedicated his life to his mission. He dedicated his life to Jesus Christ, and uh, there are so many examples of Charlie in moments of victory or success, political or otherwise. He never took credit for himself, and he continually said, "This is all God." And people are seeing that and reacting to it, and it should give us all hope for our future to see those who'd never met him before now turning to God, maybe for some for the very first time.
Where do you find this strength? Because, we're very good friends and I talked to you right after it happened. And even in that moment when I was really angry and freaked out and melting down, you have this beautiful faith that never wavers about the good and the light and seeing the light instead of getting wrapped up in darkness and evil. Where does that come from? And what would you say to people who are having a harder time with their faith and spirituality in this moment?
Just look to God who sits within every one of our hearts. I deployed overseas with the military a few times in different combat zones in different parts of the world, and in some of the harshest environments, in a place in Iraq, for example, where every day I served in a medical unit and every day was confronted with death or severe injury, the human cost of war, and every day having the choice to what am I going to do? Am I going to allow myself to fall into a state of just grief and confusion and darkness and getting lost in that, or take shelter in really the only place where real shelter can be found, and that's in God's love and having a personal loving relationship with God and talking to God. And if you're feeling angry, tell God, I'm angry. I don't know
Mhm.
what to do. I don't know why I'm feeling this way. If you're confused or you're sad or maybe you're hopeful, have that conversation with God and know that and have faith that He will guide you through. You ask for help, God will help you. He's waiting for every one of us to turn to Him. But that's where our free will comes into place. And this is the beauty of the First Amendment of the Constitution, in our right to and freedom to worship as we choose or not at all. And it is our choice. And so, not only in times of darkness and loss and tragedy, can we choose to turn to God to be our best friend, to hold our hand and love us as we find our way through, with His light of love shining the way. But also, and I saw this in Charlie, is during times of success, where it can be easy to get lost, and kind of fall off the path in sadness and in happiness. Give praise and thanks to God, and always hold Him close.
Yeah, I saw a tweet someone put out, which was a text, and I apologize, I don't remember who, between them and Charlie, and they were congratulating Charlie on something, and he said it's always important to be humble and remember, like, we're servants of God, and he just it's incredible how evolved he was as a human at such a young age in so many different ways to even remind yourself of that. And he had many massive successes. Tulsi, you are one of the busiest people on all of planet Earth. I really appreciate you taking time to come
Thank you
on the
for
show
having me.
today. I just want to tell you that I love you so much. You're so important to me. You're so important to this country. You bring hope and light in such darkness. And you make many sacrifices for this country as well, and I'm so grateful. And my life is so much brighter with you in it in so many different ways, always. And I just love you, and I just want
Thank
to
you.
thank you.
I love you
And
back, Megan. You're my family. You know
I know,
this.
I know.
And I appreciate that even if I can't answer your texts and don't get a chance to call you for a while, I appreciate you always understand.
Well, you normally do, but yes, I always remind myself that you're trying to save the world and make sure that nothing bad happens to the country, which is an incredibly important job. But I love you, and like I said, stay strong, and thank you for coming on, and thank you for your light this morning, and aloha.
Thank you. Aloha. Thank you, Megan.
All right, that was Tulsi making everybody feel better about the world. Certainly makes me feel better about the world. As our there's Miranda. There's my friend, my other bestie friend, Miranda.
Trying to.
Hi.
Hi, can you hear me?
Oh, yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Thank you
Yeah,
all
I
so
just can't hear
much
myself.
for staying on. We actually have Selena Zito coming on as well. Is she on right now? Okay, so we're just going to switch gears a little bit to have our other bestie, Selena Zito, come on. Selena, for people that already know, she is a well-known veteran journalist for the Washington Examiner and author of the #1 New York Times best-selling book, Butler, The Untold Story of the Near Assassination of Donald Trump and the Fight for America's Heartland. And you can find her on X at Zito Selena. All right, Selena. First of all, thank you also so much for taking time to talk today. Um, Everybody's having a hard time, processing. I even, friends of mine who are on the left that are normal are having a very difficult time. You were one of the first people I thought of after Charlie Kirk's assassination, obviously because you are a personal friend, but you're also a huge friend of the show. And you were witness to the almost assassination of President Trump and recovering it at Butler. How are you doing just emotionally in this moment? It has to be incredibly triggering and hit close to home for you.
I've said this on your show. I've said this to other people. When Butler happened, and then the aftermath after Butler, I never cried. I think a lot of that had to do with I was just thrown into you have to work, you have a job to do, right? I wasn't allowed that emotional space. And I probably did it to myself, not consciously, but like I got a job to do, I got to do it. And I kept doing it. And my daughter was the same way. She's the one who took the cover photo for Butler. Neither of us cried. Well, when what happened to Charlie, her and I just completely like fell to our knees and were just broken.
Wow.
It really
Mhm.
hit me hard. It really hit her hard. To see someone so young, so vibrant. I'm sure my daughter saw herself and her generation in Charlie. Someone who embraces their faith, embraces patriotism, has a lot of children. She saw someone who talked a lot about the things that were important to her values. And Charlie, I've known Charlie since he was 18 years old, right? I mean, I woke up this morning thinking, did this happen? Did this really
Mhm.
happen? It still doesn't feel real. Now, one of the things that I noticed, and this has nothing to do with politics in as much as it has to do with what I called at the time an awakening with young people. So after President Trump was assassinated, if people follow me at all, they know I'm always everywhere, right? I'm always driving to some place and trying to pick up and understand how people feel about things. And I saw something that blew my mind. And that was, and it's in the book, it's in Butler. I saw a group of young moms, right? Soccer moms, for lack of a better word, because they were at a soccer field. I had, up until this point, no idea what their political affiliation was. Never talked about politics. They were friends of my daughter's. She didn't know what their political affiliation was. And yet they showed up with Make America Great Again hats on. And I was like, I never thought, I started talking like, I never thought of you guys as political. And they're like, we weren't. But if he can take a bullet for us, we can wear a hat and not be afraid.
It's
And
really
I'm
nice.
seeing the same thing reflected among a lot of young people about faith, because for a lot of young people, Charlie just wasn't about politics and policy. He was about being unafraid about expressing your faith, about expressing your love for God and for Jesus from the Holy Spirit. And I have seen that in droves since Charlie was assassinated. My own parish, you couldn't get into the back. It's a little country church in Westmoreland County, Pennsylvania, Catholic church. Couldn't even get in. That's how many people were there. And there's a city church. It's very diverse in the city of Pittsburgh. It's called The Sanctuary. It's a non-denominational church. However, they had busloads of kids from the local colleges, from Duquesne University, Pitt, Carlow, Chatham, Point Park, just piling into this city church because of they wanted to show that they were unafraid and that they were there in spirit for what happened with Charlie.
Wow. Selena, I don't want to get too negative, but this is a horrible, dark story, and it's
Yeah.
a horrible, dark incident. Just on a personal level, our show was supposed to go interview Charlie and his wife, I think literally in 2 weeks. We had it on our schedule, and one of the things that was so amazing about it, I was going to interview them about their marriage and how they keep their marriage. So, this inspiring marriage to so many people in the country. It was going to be more of like a lifestyle interview than political. and they had reached out and said they would love to get dinner after. And I remember being like, well, that's like lovely and kind. And, you don't normally interview people and have that reaction. And, I was not good friends with him. We were friendly friends. And, but I was not like, as close as Tulsi or you or anyone like that. But he was incredibly kind and respectful to me. And I think the thing that is so difficult for people like me right now is he was one of the good guys. I mean, he was trying to talk to the other side. He was going into really hostile spaces, trying to have dialogue, trying to be a positive force in the world. And he was shot because of it and killed in front of the entire world. And I keep seeing people on the left saying, I mean, ghoulish, hideous things. People like Matt Dowd, who has, thank God, been fired from his job, who said that Charlie, I don't remember the exact verbiage, but implied that Charlie deserved it because of the work he did. I saw Katie Tur. I still think Katie Tur should be fired. Mark Halperin, who I work with at Two-Way, disagreed with me. I don't have any tolerance for this. I'm not a cancel culture person,
Right.
but I think part of the problem we're here is that there are so many people in entertainment and media and politics who cannot talk about Republicans like we're human beings. You
That's
cannot
it.
have any compassion. You cannot talk about us like we're real people. And when someone is assassinated in front of the entire world, you still can't have compassion. I don't think you should have a platform on television. Do you disagree with me?
It's the lack of remorse, right? For what Dowd said, what Tur said, and what other people have said that is so vile that makes you want them to have a consequence, right? Because it's beyond me. I cannot fathom this. I don't hate anybody that much or hate anybody at all enough to wish or imply the things that they have. Like you, I don't believe in the cancel culture. However, if you're going to be that craven and that vile about someone's life, there needs to be a consequence for it. And you're also right in that I have been covering conservative movement. I am conservative. The sense of otherness that is projected on us because we aren't what the cool kids are doing, right? Or how they feel they are. And I think there's several inflection points going on here, Megan. And one of them is why we're seeing such hatred, like from Dowd or from Tur, is that they recognize that they have lost power. They don't have power in our culture in the way that they used to. And because of their losing power, because they coveted it so much, I doubt that you'll see any sense of remorse from this. And there should be consequences for that behavior. There absolutely should be.
Mm-hmm. No, I don't disagree. And again, for me, this is not about cancel culture. This is about digging up old tweets and getting someone fired from working on a movie. This is about you have an inability to speak about 51% of the population in a way that is in any way humanizing at all. And like I said, I'm really glad Matt Dowd got fired. He's one of the biggest pieces of shit I ever worked with at ABC. So, I wasn't surprised that he said that as well. One of the things I have been thinking about too, when it comes to the media right now, is that one of the things that you just cannot overlook is the fact that Charlie Kirk, who is a conservative icon, and I wouldn't even just say conservative, like I think he's an icon to many different people for many different reasons, was assassinated. I saw the video on accident. It will haunt me for the rest of my life, Selena. It's horrific. But my response wasn't to riot. It wasn't to burn things. It wasn't to loot. It wasn't to demand that because my people and the community that I identify with has had this horrific tragedy that somehow I'm owed something by the government. This is not my reaction. It's not the reaction of anybody else. That is the part that I think we need to have a discussion about. Why is it that the left's reaction is violence, is burning down cities, is me feeling the need to arm myself in my own house? I'm remembering 2020. And ours is to pray and to take fellowship and solace and try to move forward. Do you think the media understands that we all see clearly the difference?
I don't think they understand it, or you would have had think pieces about why is this so different, right? You would have had a 3,000 word spread word in the Atlantic magazine about, look at the difference here. They don't even want to acknowledge the difference. They don't even want to say this is the right way to handle grief and shock and watching someone who you cared for assassinated. They don't even want to say that going to church is the right way, right? But praying is the right way, that honoring this person is the right way. They are still comfortable with what happened to so many cities in this country in the summer of 2020 in the name of grief over George Floyd, and not be able to say this is right and this is wrong. It's unfathomable to me, but I don't think they see it. Like, I don't think they see it. And that's, you know why? Because they don't know anybody that lives in a place like I do. They don't know anybody that, I think it was Peter Baker at the New York Times yesterday or today.
I can't believe he said that, by the way. Sorry, continue.
Yeah. No, that he's like, well, Trump's instinct is to go low, or something like that, right? And I was like, are you serious? Do you not think that anybody in the middle of the country who watched Joe Biden at the Philadelphia Constitution Center with like black and red behind him and talk about MAGA being extremist, right? Or talking about them being garbage, right?
Yeah.
Like, how do you only see the world one way? And that's not good. Like, as a reporter and you as a commentator, Meghan, you always balance, like, well, I can see why they think it this way and I can see why they think it that way. At least you try to understand. There's none of that for people in the middle of the country.
I don't know how much of that in spirit I'm going to continue right now, Selena. And I just told Tulsi, like, I just need time right now. I am in no mood to talk about meeting in the middle. I'm in no mood. And quite frankly, and I want to share this with you. I was telling our lovely producer, Ashley, who is nothing like this, even though you're not a Republican, which is totally fine. Ashley has nothing to do with this. Miranda is neither. But we have friends who we all know, or a friend this weekend put some stuff on social media that I was horrified by, couldn't believe. And the thing I couldn't believe is because this person used to work with me. Like, do you not understand that what you're saying about Charlie is also me? There's no human element of this. There's no, if God forbid something ever happened to Mom Donnie, who I think is a, political idea threat to the country. I don't think he's a physical threat to anyone. But if something happened to him and I knew someone was a huge fan of this, I would show them nothing but compassion and be like, what a horrific tragedy. Why is it so difficult for even people I know to understand why this is so hard, why this is horrific, why this is evil? And that's the part that I didn't know last week before this happened. What I didn't know on Tuesday, I know today, is that if God forbid something else were to happen to any one of us in the conservative movement, that there's people that are going to think we deserved it because of just simply what we're saying. That's new for me, Selena. Is that new for you?
No, it's not new for me. I mean, I remember when Trump got shot and people realized that I was right there, right? And there was that like iconic photo of my cowboy boots and this agent.
It's horrific.
People
I started crying, Selena. I was at dinner with my husband and I saw, and people were saying you were there, and I started crying. So I was worried something happened to you and Trump. It's horrific because that's the normal response to violence, let alone to anyone. Sorry.
People were disappointed I wasn't dead.
My God, Selena.
I got messages like that all the time. Sorry, the bullet didn't hit you too.
God.
You're dead. Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, my DMs until I shut them off could literally be a book unto itself about soulless hate. Just absolutely hate. The thing that gives me hope is that revival that I went to last night, and I'm writing about it today. Unbelievable. These kids filled me with so much joy. College kids, very diverse, right? This was a group of Blacks, whites, and Hispanics, just really young people, just really filled with, that was, it's not that they all agreed with Charlie on policy, but they embraced how he embraced Jesus, how he embraced his faith, right? And they said, that was me that they shot. That
Yeah.
was, this is me they're going after. Everything is different now. And are they going to get into the streets and be violent? No, they go to church and make a difference.
Well, I think what you brought up about Peter Baker, who's the, for people who don't, he's the head of the New York Times. One of the things that he also said was that Charlie was really radical, and like he said all these things that were, controversial, and I was like, they are not. 51, if not more percent of the population, probably 80 to 90% agrees with what he's saying. I probably agreed with 95%, if not 98% of what he said. Very normal, mainstream. This is not someone who is like on the alt-right. This is not someone who traffics in anti-Semitism or anything that is, disgusting detritus on the internet. This is a very mainstream conservative man. You think that's radical? That's the part that is the part that I just don't understand. Why are you comfortable saying this on television? Well, clearly he was not a radical figure, because there wouldn't be this outpouring of love and grief everywhere.
And he wasn't a
Sorry,
crazy
Brenda, go ahead.
guy with like a bullhorn on a corner. He was getting
Right.
booked on college tours where tens of thousands of people would show up to hear him speak and have conversations with him. So
Yeah.
he's not some maniac spouting hate speech wherever he can get an audience. If he was, he'd be some like dork in a basement,
Yes.
posting on Twitter
Yes.
with some like weird YouTube channel.
And
He
he's
was
joyful, he's educated, he's
Yeah.
thoughtful, right? I mean, he was the quintessential happy warrior. And he straddled a couple different worlds. It wasn't just policy and politics, it was also faith and tradition. And you didn't just shoot a guy that was a Republican that you think is all right. You shot a guy that is a man of faith. You shot a guy that is a father, a responsible father. You shot a guy who is a small businessman. You shot a lot of different people in that moment. And you impact. My profession and Democrats have no idea what they have stirred up by these actions and their response to it. They have no idea. I see it right. All I have to do is look outside my window, out of my house. I see people with signs. I mean, people are real. People I've never thought that were political are just gutted to see. And most people saw it, like you, Megan, accidentally. And you're like, wait, did that just happen? Please tell me.
I screamed. I've never seen I talked to my brother, because I've never seen anyone die other than my dad, and he died peacefully in his sleep, and that's a very different experience. And my brother said, who is a many times over veteran, many deployments in Iraq and Afghanistan, said it's how people die in war. Yeah. Like, this is how people die in war zones. Yeah. And
it was an act of terror. And
yes.
I don't know why nobody's calling it that.
Yeah. I want to ask you, and Miranda, again, jump in anytime. I'm sorry, I'm totally bogarting this, and we're going to run a little long because I actually heard that you broke your leg, Selena. Is that correct?
Oh, sorry,
Selena can't go anywhere. She's stuck on camera. Sorry, guys. Like, I'm
we
so
got
sorry
her captive. Yes.
I'm so sorry that happened.
Still made it to church, by the way. Still made it to church.
Yeah, I'm just teasing. I am legitimately sorry that happened to you, because so much of your work is being on the road, and being out in the world. What has been reported that Trump is having an extremely difficult time with this. I have friends who are close with his staff who went out to dinner with them this weekend, said they're all totally, it's so similar to Butler, very triggered, very deep in grief. I know you talk to Trump often. Have you been able to speak with him, and do you know how him and his team are doing?
We did text. Look, one of the things, this is really hard on him, in the way that it was hard on him. It is interesting to me. It might be interesting to people. When this was hard on what was hard on Trump about Butler was not him being shot. What was hard on Trump about Butler was Corey Compatore died, and 2 other people got shot and almost died afterwards. Trump is very well aware of the fact that Charlie Kirk had a lot to do with galvanizing young people and encouraging them to go and vote and make a difference in the country. And so this is someone who was out there, just like Corey Compatore was, right? Out there with his family, ready to have fun at Butler, right? The kids are there, they're having a good time. Same with Charlie. He's out there for the cause, right? Wanting to educate people, wanting to bring young people together, want to be able to have discourse, and he's shot. It's like all in the name of the same thing. Mm-hmm. right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I have often said that when Democrats and the press go after Trump voters or possible Trump voters, they think they're going after Trump. They're going after them. Every piece of crap that you say about Trump, they take it personally.
Well, I also think that there is a direct through line between being called deplorable and trash and
Garbage.
Nazis and garbage to this. I actually do think there's a through line
Yes.
because I was even, and I don't want to make this too much about myself, but I'm just trying to evoke my own experience as a conservative commentator, nowhere even in the remote arena of Charlie Kirk, but I have been around a long time. I was even thinking about my experience at The View, that the whole point of having a so-called conservative on The View, which I respectfully, there hasn't been one since me, and I say that with total respect, but there hasn't. That the whole point of the incarnation of that show is to have one Republican that you treat like shit, that you bully, that you let the audience physically in the room boo you every day, which happened to me, booed me every day to my face. Just the idea that network television has a show with 5 women on it, when the whole purpose of the show is to shit on the Republican. That is the purpose of that show, and that's the role you take on the show, which is part of the reason why I ended up leaving it, because I didn't think I was adding positive things to Republican, image in the world. The fact that that's still allowed, like, fuck off. Like, we are 50% of the population. We're in power everywhere. Everybody's voting for us because our ideas are better.
Yeah.
And what you're offering is mental illness and socialism. But instead, the number one daytime talk show is going to have, like, the purpose of the Republican is to be a clown show act. Like, I was thinking about it recently and I was like, I think in some small way, like, my role in media has played a part into the belittling and dehumanizing of Republicans. And maybe that's just too much time. I've had to ruminate over this for almost a week, but what do you make of that? And again, I'm not really not trying to make this about myself. I'm just thinking about how Republicans are treated as a general whole by our media.
I thought the bravest thing you did ever, outside of the care and what you went through with your dad, was to quit.
Thank you. Thanks, honey.
Because what they did to you has given women a license out there that are your age and mostly my age to go on TikTok and cheer and throw a party because a guy died that they disagreed with. That showed those women, the way they treated you and the way they treat anybody else that just thinks a little bit different is a gateway to treating people in life the same way. So when you quit, I was so happy. I was so
happy. You sent me a lovely text, by the way. I remember.
Like my daughter, right? Like, I don't want to see my daughter treated that way. It really hurt me. Like, people, the bad guys project and think they can go and do stuff like that online. But you know what? The good people project too, and they want to protect you. They wanted to say, stop that. But they're not going to stop because they feel so self-righteous. And I often wonder, do they have a lack of purpose and religion in their life? I'm not talking about go to church every Sunday religion, but the kind of purpose and faith that makes you realize that being on this earth isn't about you. It's about a higher power, right?
Yeah.
And about doing good and raising good children, right? Like that's our purpose. And I don't think they have that in their hearts.
But it's also like the bookers there. There was a article that came out a month or so ago that talked about how The View had like 230 Democrats on and 1 Republican as guests on the show. And it was something that even Charlemagne on The Breakfast Club spoke about, like how just it is egregious. And it's like, you don't even have respect enough to invite people on your show that disagree with you, because this group of people just can't handle it. They can't emotionally handle having their ideas challenged. And again, there's something about that. I am not in any way blaming any one television show. I think this is an amalgamation of all of it. And I'm saying this is the last time I was on network TV. And I've just been thinking about it. And I was just like, the country and the culture and people in media at large are way too comfortable being bullies and disgusting and dehumanizing towards Republicans in general on TV anywhere outside of Fox. And, you know, I saw there was a man on CBS and I forgot his name, but he was lecturing Speaker Johnson. Is one of the hosts of the CBS morning show. And he was lecturing Speaker Johnson about how Republicans need to tone down the rhetoric. And again, the bullet hit a Republican commentator. I'm sorry, but like, this isn't about what we're doing right now because we're the ones being hunted.
Yeah.
So excuse me if at this moment, our candidate for president, there's a whole series of political violence specifically aimed towards Republicans. And anyone who brings up Josh Shapiro, the person who burned down his house was a radical leftist, psycho,
Yes.
pre-Palestine
Far
person.
lefty.
Yes.
He
So
was
why
a
do you
far
think,
lefty.
is there anything to even, again, I didn't mean to get this like angry, but I'm angry, I'm upset, I'm tired, and I've been crying a lot.
Yeah.
Is there any way that this changes? Like, is there anything like, I feel hopeful that Barry Weiss is allegedly, but more than likely taking over CBS because maybe she can clean house over there. But is this going to bring in any change, or is this just how it's going to be forever?
I would like to. I also pin my hopes on Barry and being at CBS. Also, she's a Pittsburgh girl, so I'm going to be
Yeah. I
I
think we're all rooting for her to
Yeah.
do good things there.
Yeah. You know, Pete, this is
Seriously.
the thing that a lot of journalists get wrong. Oh, you want it to be just right-leaning journalists. No, we just want you to call it down the middle, no matter what you're reporting on, whether a dog pooped on the sidewalk or someone was hurt, just call it down the middle. Don't turn it into, well, it's the right wing's person's fault that this happened. Like, that was the immediate reaction.
I know, that was psychotic. I was like, why would a Republican kill a Republican?
Yeah.
Like, and obviously there's deep mental illness involved with anyone who would do such a thing. But this is obviously, anyone with 6 brain cells, any sentient human would know that it is a radical of whatever. Again, I'm not going to blame this on
They were
Democrats. I think
doing
he's like a psycho.
backflips trying to pin this on a
Oh.
Nick Fuentes, whatever, Graper, whatever that is.
Oh, I
It's
didn't even
someone
know what
who's
that word
saying,
was, by the way.
saying Charlie wasn't Republican enough, which was insanity. So
Yeah.
the answer, I think, is to stay off social media. That's what I did in the end of last week, and it's the only thing that kept me sane up until this weekend when I got back on it. And Megan, you know, I got ill overnight from being back on social media last night. Physically ill. So I think the answer for us to maintain our sanity for now is to just not be on social media for a little while, because
I took it off all day Saturday. I will say that to both
Yeah,
of you. Like I
and
did, and
not-
I did feel better.
not giving people our clicks and views for a minute may send a message. I'm not sure.
Selena and Miranda, we have a ton of hands raised. Do you want to answer a question? I do have one. Let's answer a question. And then I'm so sorry. We're going to go a little long, you guys, but this is a big moment. I haven't been on air since Charlie's assassination. And also I've got to ask you about the trans element of this. Selena, I want to talk about it. People seem very scared to talk about this. I am not. But first, let's go to a question from our audience, if you don't mind. Anybody, we have a ton of hands. You choose, Ashley. Nick, how are you?
Hey, Nick in Florida.
Hey, yeah. Hey,
Yes.
Megan.
Thanks for coming
hey,
on.
Yeah, hey, Megan. Hey, Miranda. Thanks for taking my question. Selena, I just want to let you know, really an honor to meet you.
Oh,
I read your book. It was outstanding, by the way.
oh, thank you.
Just a couple of quick things, and I'll get to it right away, because one of the things, Megan, I do want to ask is about the trans element of this, because that's really not being discussed right now in the mainstream, but it is being discussed on the right side. So I do want to talk about that. Nate Burleson is the CBS News anchor who was questioning Kevin
Thank you.
McCarthy
Mhm.
about that. I'm 60 years old. I don't know Charlie. I've never met him, but I have to tell you something. I am really having a tough time with this. I am a religious person, and I'll be honest with you, I don't know how. Like, it's just this. I wake up in the morning and it's like, did that really happen or not happen? I'm having a really tough time with this. The one thing I will say is, they say there was some divine intervention at some point. I want to point this out real quick. Charlie was a big Oregon Ducks NCAA football fan. They played this weekend and they won 34-14. When you look up Psalm 34:14 in the Bible, the verse is, turn away from evil and do good, seek peace and pursue it. I mean, you know what I'm
That's
saying?
weird.
Beautiful.
It's really
Yeah.
incredible. So maybe if you can kind of get that word out. But I guess the question I really had is is the trans. Oh, by the way, Miranda, I do agree with you. Why is no one talking about the fact that this is a terrorist incident? I don't understand that. Like, this is true terrorism on that. But I do want to ask about the trans element on that. So you sort of answered the question I was going to ask, but I would love to kind of dig into that a little bit.
Well, Nick, I think since I'm glad you're asking the question that I want to talk to all of you about. So Tyler Robinson, who is the shooter, and I feel mixed about saying his name, but everybody knows his name right now. So his roommate is a person who has transitioned or is in the process of transitioning from male to female, and the roommate has provided authorities with messages that were sent prior to the shooting in which Robinson discussed retrieving a rifle from a drop point and later leaving a rifle in the bush. Governor Spencer Cox of Utah had said over the weekend he confirmed that he lived with a trans person. Actually, we have a video
We have
of
the
the
clip.
roommate.
Yeah.
Yeah, can we show this clip really quick?
Dana
Thank you. Or
Bash,
yeah, thank you. Sorry. Just so I'm not explaining this as well as I can. Go ahead. Do the neighbor.
There's some published reports out there that this individual, the roommate, may have been transitioning. Did that correlate with what you saw?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so he was going to have an operation to be to turn into a woman.
Yeah, and I think he was getting ready for that.
And in what way do you think that?
I remember them talking about a
I wanna show
doctor's
Spencer
appointment.
Cox, too.
It was about
Spencer Cox, too.
2 weeks
That's right
ago,
after.
I would say.
And they were kissing.
Yeah,
Do you know where did you see them kissing?
just coming out. I was riding with my bike, so I didn't see the whole thing, but yeah, I saw them.
And when did you hear them talking about a doctor's appointment?
I would say about the same time that they came out, so that one time, yeah.
Where were you standing for that?
I was just riding by here.
Okay.
So
And you were able to hear snippets of their conversation?
yeah, yep.
But you were sure that they were a couple, but you have only seen them together once?
Yeah, I mean, random guys don't hold hands.
Outlets are reporting that the suspect lived with a transgender partner. Is that accurate? And are investigators looking at this part of his life as a possible motivation?
Yes, definitely. And yes, I can confirm that. I know that has been reported and that the FBI has confirmed that as well, that the roommate was a romantic partner, a male transitioning to female. I can say that he has been very cooperative. This partner has been incredibly cooperative, had no idea that this was happening, and is working with investigators right now.
Okay, so no offense to Governor Cox, because I'm sure he knows a lot about this situation, but we have proof through text messages that Tyler Robinson sent that roommate messages saying retrieve a rifle from a drop point, and then I'm going to leave a rifle in a bush. I'm sorry, Selena, Miranda, Nick, any of you texting me, you need to retrieve this rifle because I'm planning something. I would call you, and then I'd probably call the police because that's psychotic. Okay. So like him not knowing, I don't know how much I buy it, but I do think after the last shooting of the Catholic school children, the Nashville shooting, there is now a long list of shooters. And I'm going to treat this like I would any other group of people who now have a pattern of shootings and killings in this country. There is a through line to the trans community. I am not saying all trans people, of course not, that's crazy. But I'm saying this is something we need to focus on and that we need to start paying more attention to. Selena, what do you make of this?
Well, to your point, when you see a pattern of behavior, it happens once, it happens twice. Okay. You get to the third, fourth, fifth, time that this has happened. There's something to that pattern of behavior that has to be brought to light. We have to get in there and understand what is the motivation? Why do these people who are trans believe this is the best way to I don't know, get attention, get back at people, whatever their sort of motivation is to commit these horrible acts, right? But I don't know how many are still alive.
Well, also, when Charlie was shot, he was answering a question about trans shooters and trans violence, and right before he was shot, which is bizarre and awful, obviously. I just think what has been so surprising for me was on Saturday, and again, I was off my phone most of the day, but then when I turned my phone back on after I took my girls to an art class, a friend had sent me that it was reported at Fox that the shooter's boyfriend was trans and there's a trans connection. And it was being reported nowhere, despite the fact that the journalists at Fox who reported it are very well respected. It's not like a weird, obscure journalist. It's like really well-known reporters.
Mm-hmm.
And then the New York Post reported it, and the media is not touching this until Governor Cox goes on morning shows and confirms it. And again, I'm not saying we should jump to conclusions and scapegoat anyone, but why won't you report this? Why is it
Telling
taking you so
it
long?
did not fit that extreme like left talking point narrative they were trying to frame, that this was a super duper alt-right cuckoo crazy extra MAGA bro that didn't think Charlie was MAGA or Republican enough. And that was the point that they were trying to make.
Did you find it odd at all that during that press conference that the governor was doing all of the talking and like Cash and like the FBI weren't more out front on it? Do you find that odd, or is that sort of normal the way it is? Because I found it slightly odd.
I total respect, Nick and Selena. I would love to hear your opinion on this, and you don't have to answer if you don't want. I've never had a problem with Kash Patel. I don't know him. I didn't have a problem, but there are two reports that came out over the weekend that I found alarming and just disappointing. One was that it is reported in many different places, including the Daily Beast, that he went to a very popular hip restaurant in New York City the night Charlie Kirk was assassinated, a place called Rouse, which is very sceney.
Yeah, Rayo's restaurant.
Rayo's, excuse me. Thank you. Miranda's more sceney than I am. And I just think it's distasteful. I could not go out to dinner that night, and I am not the head of the FBI, let alone at a popular hotspot. And then his tweets about them taking, it gave people false hope that we had already, caught the suspect. And he just seems to kind of be all over the place. And there are the reports this morning that it's not just me having issues with Kash Patel, that there are a lot of people in the White House that are having concerns as well. And just go to the homepage of Mediaite right now. It was on right before I came. So yeah, I did think it was strange. And
hadn't we seen reports that he and Dan Bongino had flown to Utah, but then we got conflicting reports that Cash was in New York at these fancy restaurants. So who had gone to Utah and when? I want to see the timeline, quite frankly, because it's not lining up.
Do you have anything to say, Nick or Selena, about this?
Well, when there have been tragedies that happen, and I've seen other administrations not respond to them in a way that I felt was urgent and reflected the seriousness of what happened, I have been very critical. If that's I don't know what the case is, if he was or was not there. I mean, if he was in New York or Utah, but I would like to believe that he was on his way there and was handling this. I didn't follow all the news conferences though, because I was having surgery.
I'm so sorry.
Fair. That is fair.
Yeah,
yes.
Fair enough. Nick, we have a lot of questions really quick. I hope you don't mind, but I really appreciate you listening and asking us today. And please know that everyone I know, even people on the left, and again, I don't know people on the left who are animals. Everyone I know that is a Democrat is a kind person, everyone's having an extremely difficult time. So give yourself grace. Even if you didn't know him, even if you don't work in media, even if you're not a Republican, this is a horrific tragedy for the country. And we all need to be kind to each other and kind to ourselves. So thank you so much, Nick.
Thanks,
we have
Megan.
Jeremy next, really quick. Jeremy, how are you? Oh, Jeremy.
Hey,
It's our
Jeremy.
friend, Jeremy Sanderowitz. Thank you so much. Do you guys know each other, Selena?
Thank you.
Hi,
No,
Jeremy.
we have not met, but thank you.
How are you
Thank you.
doing? And what's your question?
Yeah, so I had paid almost no attention to Charlie Kirk before last week. It was a total, and I'm just really been educating myself on what a blind spot that was. Because I had just thought of him as just part of this generation of young activist, 18-year-old activists. But over the past year, I've just been incredibly impressed with how he grew up. It was in a lot of, a lot of enfant terribles don't grow up the way he did. He, just first that he got his hands dirty with a get out the vote effort for the 2024 campaign, which actually seemed to work reasonably well, which is more than can be said for those campaigns led by a lot of political operatives who devote their entire careers to that. But also, I've just been incredibly impressed over the last few months that he has been a real force standing against the resurgence of anti-Semitism on the online right, trying to stop it from consuming the right the way it has on the left. And I've just I'd literally never seen a video of his before last week, and now my Instagram feed is a total fire hose of them, which fair enough. But I'm sure someone who puts out that much content has plenty of objectionable things, and I'm not going to object to to necessarily some of the things that that people have objected to over the years, but at least a lot of the videos that I've seen have been really really productive and inspirational almost to watch, in terms of how devoted he was to talking to people who disagreed with him, which is something that even if it's a shtick, it's a much better shtick than most of the other political shtick that that carries out nowadays. A question for Selena. Especially with your experience having been in Butler, between that and what happened to Charlie Kirk last week, do you think that we're going to have to move towards no outdoor events for major political figures because of the difficulty in securing them, and B, for other meetings with politicians are basically going to have to go full TSA security protocols before you can get close to them? I was thinking just a few years ago, I'm in New York, Kristen Gillibrand was doing a public event, was doing a press conference across the street from my building at the time. And so I just walked out and was able to get within 5 feet of her with no problem whatsoever. I can't see that continuing.
Yeah. Also, Selena, just on a side note, do you think everyone's going to have to start wearing bulletproof vests and or doing things behind bulletproof casings of some kind if it is outdoors?
Yeah, I was actually, when I first saw him shot, I was hopeful he had one on.
That's what I've heard, is he did have a vest on, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah, the first outdoor event President Trump did after he was shot, there was sort of this plexiglass bulletproof glass apparatus around him. And that's continued. But, long term, I don't think we're going to do that. Americans, we love our freedom, and we can be defiant, even if it's could be harmful. After Trump was shot, I remember asking him, why did you say fight, fight, fight? And he said, well, in that moment, I wasn't Donald Trump. In that moment, I was a president of the United States. And it is my obligation and incumbent of me to show strength and to show that we go on, that we endure, and to be reflective of that grit and exceptionalism. And I think that Americans, by and large, also feel that same way. That as an American, whatever happens, at least I knew I was doing the right thing at the right time. And so I suspect that's not going to eventually be the case. The thing, the elephant in the room that we're not addressing, and this goes back to your question about trans, is, man, when are we going to address mental illness?
Yeah.
Seriously. Yeah. I remember as a young woman, because I'm old now, as a young woman, and they decided, people were institutionalized when they couldn't take care of themselves, right? Or they were harmful to themselves, or they were harmful to their family, or harmful to society. They were institutionalized. And there was a decent portion of institutions that were pretty crappy. But instead of fixing the pretty crappy part, we decided, let's get rid of all of them. Well, this is the end result of that. Why not fix what was wrong with the institutions, right? As opposed to letting people walk around that are even themselves aware of the fact that I ain't right, right? Like something's wrong. Our homelessness problem has very little to do with lack of resources. Our homeless problem has to do with mental illness. And they don't want, a lot of homeless people do not want someone taking care of them. They don't want the government taking care of them. They just want to be away from society. And how do I know that? Because I've talked to a lot of them. So I think the elephant in the room is mental illness. And I don't know, it's a taboo. We don't talk about it. I'll probably get canceled for saying this.
No.
And you know, Jeremy, speaking to your question about canceling open air gatherings like what Charlie did, my concern with getting rid of them, you know, aside from, you know, bringing them inside is obviously more safe and turning them into ticketed events where everyone goes through security, is that it cancels the spontaneity of the element where someone who's walking from class to class and is like, you know, maybe they are an independent or they're left leaning but curious about what the other side has to say. They can't just walk up and have the chance, you know, prove him wrong or listen in on the conversation and possibly get their minds changed or be interested in another side's way of thought. And if all you're going to get is more people interested in the echo chamber and hearing things that they already believe in, if it turns into you have to buy the tickets or reserve the tickets and go and sit in some auditorium for 2 hours and hear stuff you already believe in or you already know. So I hope that they can figure out a way to make these things safe and accessible in a way that people walking by can just, you know, cruise in and out and hear what you want to hear and leave if you don't like it. But for at least for the foreseeable future, I don't know how they can manage to do that safely.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about all that, Miranda. And it would, if these outdoor events do end, I'm sure it will be a major loss for everyone. It's just going to be a question of like how much more to take. And I know a lot of people have also talked about how, not leaving outdoor events aside, that this could very easily be the end of having at least like conservative speakers on campus, not because of
my husband and I both have dates coming up, so it's not
Megan,
completely over.
you're Megan, you're a conservative figure on campus.
Right. Well, like
at colleges, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Selena too. I don't think I'm not stopping. I mean, I certainly will be more vigilant about security issues, but Selena's not stopping. My husband's not. Ben Shapiro said from like my cold dead hands, basically, like he will never stop. I think that we're not cowards. It's a big, I say that with total respect, but there is a character differentiation between us and the left. Like, I'm not a pussy. And I'm just like, what they want is for us to be scared.
Let the terrorists win. Yeah.
And they want their ideology to be the only one that has a microphone. And like, if you think that's going to work, like you never met any one of us. We are way over time. I'm so sorry. I want to thank you, Jeremy. You're such a wonderful friend of the show and friend in real life in general. Jeremy's friends with my husband and I as well. So he's it's a friend coming in.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jeremy. We'll talk to you soon. And Selena, you're one of the best ever. You're easily one of the best ever. And I can't help, like when I was texting you this weekend, like, you know, it just is hitting way too close to home. You were already at an assassination attempt, and you have this, like you said, horrific, iconic photo of yourself and this horrific experience. And this is just too much for everybody, and it has to end. And I love you very much, and your work is so important. And please don't ever stop anything. The only thing stopping you is surgery, which
rest that leg.
Rest that leg.
Get better.
And Miranda, I love you too. Thank you so much. Again, I'm sorry I didn't speak as much. I just want to end when we say goodbye. I want to show this video of my last interview with Charlie Kirk back when my friend Tulsi was being confirmed, and you guys can say goodbye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
I just want to tell you, Mr. Kirk, today
if anyone votes against her, I promise you, I will do anything in my power to make sure there are consequences for this, or RFK for that matter, because this is more, it's about more than just Tulsi and RFK. This is about the new coalition in the Republican Party, and particularly women and moms who came out in droves, a lot of first-time Trump voters who came out and voted because they wanted this, squad of people. They wanted the dream team, which includes RFK and Tulsi Gabbard, and they deserve to have their choices in the cabinet. It is not up to just these people, and you can't give me a real reason you don't like Tulsi other than you've listened to some propaganda on the internet, and I'm heartbroken by it, but I do think we're going to get her over the line. And if for some reason we don't, I promise you there will be hell to pay, and I hope that you will join me in getting retribution for it.
I will join you in launching primaries against these people. It's so inexcusable. There is no argument there. I want you to dive deeper into this, Meghan, because I was really taken by something you said on the Mark Halperin show that I totally agree, that there are millions, we don't know the number, but a significant portion of moms and women that are now Republican and voting Republican because of the Bobby Kennedy, Tulsi Gabbard unity party. When I speak to DC insiders, they think that's overrated, obviously, because they're high on their own supply. I know it's not overrated. I think it's actually one of the decisive ingredients to this new Republican governing majority.